Happy New Year to you, and hope you had a peaceful and joyous transition into 2019. Now, it's that time of the year when many of us will make a list of those resolutions for the new year. Now, have you considered adding health at the top of your list? Perhaps you've overdone things a bit over the festive season. I'm probably thinking, I must lose weight, quit smoking, drink less. Whatever it is highly advisable to have a health year plan for 2019. And not only for yourself, but we also encourage the same for those close to you. So today we discuss your health year plan. We'll be helping you with practical advice on maintaining a healthy lifestyle in this new year and beyond. Now, to help us with this, we'll be joined in the studio by a medical practitioner, a clinical psychologist, a dietitian, and a fitness expert and founder of Run Sharp. You can tweet us at SABC Health Talk or simply interact with us on our Facebook page, SABC Health Talk. So sit back, relax, and learn from this bumper show ahead. Coming to you just after a short break. I'm Dr. Sello Daung, and this is Health Talk.
Being a part of the SABC News team essentially means that I have to report news in an independent and impartial manner, making it a point that South Africans get a sense of what is happening in the country, the continent, and the world. I'm Abongile Dumago, and I'm SABC News.
Buildings, submerged homes and devastated families.
Biggest earthquake in here.
Their homes and buildings moved like boats.
Big shake, and I ran as fast as I can.
These are the satellite images depicting the area before the disaster.
The ground is like a wave.
I've never seen anything like this in my life.
It is unbelievable. You can actually smell the stench of dead bodies around.
The National Hurricane Center said earlier on Tuesday that Michael was a Category 1 storm with sustained winds of up to 150 kilometers per hour. Residents were implored to get out of harm's way ahead of life-threatening waves, winds and rains. Flash flooding over the weekend caused 13 deaths in Central America after Michael formed off the coast of northern Honduras.
Are people aware of which medical checks to do and how often?
Check BP and your sugar levels, and I think even the heart, if you can, just check if your heart is still normal. That is very important.
And how often do you think people need to do these checks in a year?
Well, maybe once or 3 times a year. It depends. You know, if you feel that there's something, then we might have to want to go regularly.
I think, you know, your blood pressure, your cholesterol, prostate for men, those sort of things I think are important to check.
And how often in a year do you think people should do that?
I think at least once a year. I do it once a year, but maybe if you can twice a year, you know, is also sufficient, unless, yeah.
First of all, we have to look at, I'd say maybe like HIV, because that's one of the things I know that in South Africa recently the stats have been a bit higher. So I think that's one of the most major important checks that a lot of people need to check, because, you know, as the youth, people are not safe these days, you know, so it's vital for you to check yourself on a regular basis. Yes, it's one of those. And also things like your sugar diabetes levels, you know, high blood pressure levels, because we also consume a lot of unhealthy foods as South Africans, you know, not only South Africans, as people in general. So at least if you can be vigilant of what you consume and check yourself on a regular basis, I think you'll have a healthy lifestyle.
Full medical checkup, cancer, liver, because people they drink lots of bad things. Full medical checkup.
Okay. And how often should they do this check?
Once or twice a year.
I feel like people need to do their checkups maybe like 3 times a year or 4 times a year. So they need to watch out for their sugar levels. Hey, a lot of people eat a lot of sugar nowadays. Sugar is in everything, so they need to watch out for sugar and salt. Those two are they're affecting the country, the world actually. But yeah, people need to watch out for those two.
I'm going to focus on 3 things right now. It's going to be HIV, TB, and sugar diabetes. Sugar diabetes, I'm affected because my grandparents, my aunts, and my mother, they have sugar diabetes, you understand? And at this day and age, our generation take sugar diabetes very, very lightly, and that is very, very dangerous. TB, looking at how, at the rate of which our generation smokes, they don't take that into consideration as well, because now we inhale so many things. But we don't know where do they go in our body, you understand?
There's a lot of stuff we don't know that we still need to know. And what exactly are you planning to do? Well, let's have our first guest who's going to at least help us, with advice on what exactly to do. And this is Dr. Qeta Chume, who's an emergency medicine practitioner based here in Johannesburg. Welcome to Health Talk, Dr. Chume.
Thanks, Doc, and Happy New Year.
Thank you, and to you too.
Thank you.
Right. I mean, we're talking here about health year plans and helping people put these health resolutions on top of their list, as it were. But why should we even worry about, this kind of thing? Are there problems, perhaps?
I think in our country currently, actually worldwide, there's a lot of lifestyle diseases that are happening.
Right.
And also in South Africa, we also have infectious diseases, which are a problem. So because of those things, we definitely need to be aware of our health status. So hence, it's so important to do your health checks annually.
Right. Let's go over some of those lifestyle kind of diseases. Just give us perhaps examples of the more common.
I'm actually quite impressed with the people you had on who were talking about the kind of tests they need, how much they actually know.
Right.
But it's, of course, the basics. Your blood pressure.
Right.
You need to have, you can't give a specific amount. When we were still starting medical school, they say 120 over 80. That's the average.
Okay. So hypertension as a disease is a problem in this country.
It's a big problem. And if you've got a family history of it, if you have a diet that's very high in fat and cholesterol, etc., that leads hypertension and high lipid fat levels inside your blood, causing cholesterol problems.
All right. So we have hypertension or high blood pressure. That's a big problem.
Hypercholesterol.
We have high fat in our blood, called that fancy word hypercholesterolemia, but basically meaning that high levels of cholesterol.
Exactly.
All right. What other diseases?
And then there's diabetes.
Diabetes is the one, yes.
So there's 2 types.
Right.
There's type 1 and type 2.
Correct.
We're starting to find now there's a lot more type 2. Type 2 used to be about the young people getting it. But now older people, their pancreas is so damaged that they even have a type 1 coming in as a lifestyle change.
Okay.
So if you have a family history, if you know that you've got the problems of eating a lot of sugar, getting those numbers checked is essential as well.
All right. We're gonna come back to that in a lot more detail.
Of course.
But at least we've mentioned that there are these conditions that are becoming more prevalent, and it's becoming a huge problem. And perhaps the one that we left out, which we'll tackle a bit later, is the issue of mental health. I mean, we're having a serious burden of mental health issues. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So then, people watching this program are saying, okay, all right, now that we know that these diseases, what does it mean to me? Okay, let's start with men. What should men be looking at?
So one of the things, if you go into a GP practice or you go and see a sister at the clinic, they're supposed to weigh you.
Yeah.
They will do something called a BMI.
Yeah.
So that's when they check your height versus your weight and see if you fall within a certain range.
Right.
But they also should weigh a measure around your waist and your arm circumference.
Yeah.
That gives you a more accurate thing if you're obese.
Okay. So we often say people must know their numbers.
Yes.
In terms of BMI now, are there guidelines in terms of, what constitutes a normal one and healthy one?
Yes, we've got the intermediate, which is between 18 and 24.
Yeah.
But we're sort of moving away from just using the height and the weight now.
Right.
Hence, I'm saying the arm circumference, and of course, around the belly is also an essential.
That's an interesting one.
Obesity.
Why do we have to do this circumference around the belly?
Because central obesity is a big problem.
Right.
People with heart problems and hypertension normally have a lot of fat around the waist.
Right.
So hence that's very important.
It's not a sign of affluence or
unfortunately,
high status that you have a pot belly.
if you look at our first world people, the people that are affluent are actually slim, because they can afford to do gym and have a lifestyle person taking care of the diet.
Right. Okay. So we're saying men then must go to the health centers or anywhere else where they can measure these things, the height and weight or BMI.
And then they do the blood pressure.
Right.
They'll do your sugar.
Yeah.
So if it's, they normally say a starving one should be between 3 and 6.5. If it's above that, then you need to come back and they can do another one to repeat and maybe check your urine as well, if there's any sugar inside your urine.
Right.
And then the other one is the cholesterol, of course, that I said before.
Yeah.
And HIV. That's also a very, very important and useful test that you should do.
Yeah.
And then specifically for men, there's a test, especially after 40 years of age, to check for prostate cancer.
Right.
So there's a digital manual one, and there's also a PSA, which is
just take us through that, because they probably say, okay, so you're saying there's two types of tests.
Yes, for the
Is it
prostate.
easier to just do a blood test and forget about the other one?
There's certain things that you can feel on the manual palpation that you can't probably see, but might not be shown inside your numbers. So it's usually better the doctor can feel if there's any roughness or any changes in the way that the prostate feels.
Yeah.
But the PSA is also pretty accurate as well. So I would say,
so in other words, to say they must do both, the blood test
rather do both.
and subject themselves to examination by a doctor.
Especially if you're over 40, yes.
Right. So that's men over 40.
Yes.
And how often? I mean, we heard lots of ideas from the public here about how often they should be doing this.
We normally call them annual health checks.
Annual health checks.
So once a year is great. If you're someone that falls in the category with some of these illnesses, diabetes or hypertension, etc., then you should go monthly, basically.
The other question is where? Do you go? Is it adequate to go to a pharmacy? Should you go to your GP? Do you go to a clinic? Where should you go?
So I would advise that if you are known with a condition, then it's more, you can get it done by your sister at the clinic. When their numbers are elevated, they'll immediately say to you, must go to a doctor.
Right.
If you're poorly controlled any condition, then rather just go straight to a doctor rather than going through the clinic. So clicks and all those people all have places you can check your stuff anyway.
All right. So let's come to the women.
Yes.
Okay. So perhaps you might want us to divide them up into younger women and older women.
Okay. So for the younger females, especially with the teenagers, before they become sexually active, we now have a vaccine they can take for HPV, which is the virus that causes cervix cancer.
Right.
So that's like the 13-year-olds where we advise that. But they also need to check their weight, because obesity in teenagers and children is rising in our country as well.
Right.
Any history of cholesterol issues as well, or diabetes in the family, of course you can start early checking on those as well.
Right.
For the young girls, you can start from teenagehood, teaching them how to do manual palpation for breast cancer, just so they get used to doing that. So that's the teenagers. I don't know if there's anything else you can think of that I haven't thought of there. I think
that's pretty much.
So,
I mean, we'll get to the pap smear. You
I'm going to
mentioned,
say that now.
You
Once you become sexually active, normally we say from 18, but it happens earlier, you need to get the pap smear done. So that can be done by your GP. Some highly qualified sisters also do it as well at the clinics. But once it's abnormal, then we refer you to your gynae for them to do further tests on that.
Right.
So that's for the older, and then of course the breast examination is very important for breast cancer.
Okay.
HIV.
So let's stay a little bit on breast examination. We're talking about the older women.
Yes.
All right. And the question is, there's two types. You spoke earlier about self-examination.
Yes.
And then of course there's other tests like mammograms and so on. Let's start with self-examination.
Yes.
How often should they be doing it, and how should they do it?
We normally say as often as you can. If you're in the shower and you're in the shower, you can just do a quick check on yourself. And if you find something that's abnormal, then you can once again refer that to your doctor so they can do further testing. So as often as you can. I mean,
and the mammogram?
Mammogram, over 40, your medical aid offers at least one a year minimum. If you do have breast cancer, then they can do that into your benefits as well, as far as I understand. So over 40, mammograms are prerequisite annual check.
The one area we've left out before we run out of time is the children.
For the little ones?
Parents, yes, of little ones. It's now, I mean, they're thinking of going to school and so on.
Yes.
Yeah?
So them as well, weight, height. You can also do their checks as well on their blood, and including children that are exposed to TB. TB check for that. And then, of course, diabetes, you check for that as well. Another controversial topic is the vaccinations, which I know us as doctors are trying to push that people do vaccinate their children for.
But at least we can say they must be up to date with their.
Please.
All right. Well, Dr. Qete.
Thanks, Doc.
Qete Chume, thank you so much for your time. And I'm sure people now have it quite clear that at least once a year, have that annual check.
Perfect.
Thank you. Well, time for a quick break. When we come back, we now focus on other aspects of your life, your mental wellness. Please stay with us.
Life can throw all sorts of surprises at you, often when you least expect it. Sorry, Mom. That's why it's important to have medical cover. Me? I didn't want just any medical scheme. I wanted a scheme that I could rely on, that I could talk to at any time, that I could afford. I didn't just get medical aid. I got medical paid.
To be a part of something like this makes me proud, and I think that to be able to report the news in a fair, just, independent and impartial way is what the public broadcaster stands for.
On the agenda, Blaine and I have such an amazing team of writers and producers and a technical team that's so aware of the needs of our viewers and the constant need to be independent and impartial. I'm Desiree Chauke and I am SABC News.
Congenital disorders or birth defects are defined as abnormalities of body structure or function that are present at birth.
Some of those defects, they can come as an isolated or they can be in combination with a syndrome.
According to the World Health Organization, 300 million people are affected by depression globally.
One can be depressed as a child and then later it manifests in early adulthood.
Join us on Health Talk, Saturdays at 9 a.m.
How do people deal with stress in their daily lives?
I try not to consume myself too much with things that I can't change. A shot of whiskey, that's it. I don't consume myself much with things that I cannot change.
I'm not thinking about something that and I can't change it. Yeah, so I try to not to think about it.
For me, stress is stress. I take it as it comes. Obviously, I just see it as a challenge that I have to overcome. I don't usually let it get to me because everything is a mental game, you know what I mean? So if you really let the external world affect the inner world, it's going to be a problem. So if you can establish a common ground on who you are and where you're going, I don't think a lot of things in life would stress you that much. So for me, I usually meditate or I listen to a lot of music. That's how I calm myself down, not to focus on problems. And I try not to think about the problems too much. I try to focus on the strengths more than the weaknesses. Yeah.
I just listen to a lot of music and that's pretty much it. I just don't let it get to me, just like you said. But a lot of music helps. It helps me a lot, yeah.
I exclude myself from the world. I take a walk and then I get to think, okay, where did I go wrong to face, to have that stress that I'm having at that particular time. So I recalculate, re-strategize and think, okay, what went wrong? How can I improve where I went wrong? So that's how I deal with stress. I just exclude myself from the world and get to have some me time.
Very interesting. Okay, so let's introduce our special guest who's going to help us, unpack this mental wellness thing. He's Thabang Tlaka, who's a clinical psychologist in private practice out in Pretoria. Welcome to Health Talk.
Thank you very much for having me on the show.
Right. Perhaps let's start off by, we started earlier talking about the burden of disease in the country. Kind of answering the question, why do we even need to do this? And mental illnesses are on the rise, are becoming a major problem. Your comment on this, perhaps, you know, some of the more common mental conditions that we see today.
Yes, it's quite a big problem. You have a lot of people are struggling with depression. People are not able to cope with the amount of stress they are under. In private practice, you'll have a lot of people coming to ask for leave. They're feeling overwhelmed. They're feeling stressed. It affects relationships at home. It affects how people perform even at work. So it's quite a huge problem. We also know that there's an increase in suicide rates in the country, in that a lot of people don't necessarily have the proper avenues to deal with the things that are stressing them.
Right, right. So what could then be, perhaps, you know, it'll link us to what we need to do about these things. What are the sort of common risk factors and causes for some of these mental illnesses you mentioned? Okay, so in terms of the work environment, it might be the workload. So some people would have the amount of work that they have to do is a lot. They are short-staffed, or they are demanded to do a lot of work that they can't cope with. It could be that one is not supported at work, either by one's peers or even colleagues. It could be that one is not even recognized for the work that they do. It could be issues related to pay, and perhaps not having the proper channels of dealing with what you're supposed to deal with. So you'd see that at work. As far as families are concerned, we know that half of the people who get married get divorced. So a divorce can cause a lot of... Yeah, but you can't possibly suggest that marriage is a risk factor for mental illness.
Not necessarily the divorce part. Right, but it is also that when people also get married, the demands they put on themselves, the kind of weddings they have, so the expectations, so people get but more divorce, being divorced, and how you deal with that. Having a special child, taking care of an elderly parent, having financial issues, having relationship issues, having some sort of illness that you have, and if there's a history of an illness in your family, or depression or mental health issues, those can be risk factors that put people at risk to be stressed or depressed for that fact.
So there's quite a wide variety of factors that may lead to mental illness, all apparently centering around stress.
Yes.
That gets overwhelming at some point.
Yes.
Which then, I guess, is important for us to focus on, perhaps giving practical advice on how to deal with stress, or what you guys call stress management.
Yes. So I think it is important to clarify that stress is actually a part of life. We become stressed because our brain is trying to calculate the demands that are placed on you. So you get good stress and bad stress. Right. Good stress is use stress. That a little bit of stress that makes you want to perform better, prepare for the presentation. And then you get distressed. That's when you're feeling overwhelmed. It's affecting your mind, it's affecting your emotions, it's affecting your body. Then when you are in that situation, it might help one to be able to decide on what they can fix, because some things can't be fixed. So you need to decide what is important and what is it that you can deal with, and what do you need to then give to someone else. So to first recognize those things, and then seek the proper channels to deal with the problems that you have. You could talk to somebody, you could have a balanced life, you could get the right advice, you could take a break, you could reflect. But generally, is to just have a holistic life where you're dealing with your spiritual parts, physical parts, intellectual parts, relational parts, social parts, just managing that you live a balanced life. Then you might be in a better position to deal with stress.
Right. So I mean, just now we're talking about, at least in the earlier segment, we're talking about the kind of checks, that physical checks that people can do. And someone might ask the question, but is there a way I can check my mental status?
Yes, you can. So one of the things I like talking to people about is the fact that, you know, the body has an alarm. Or when your life is changing, or your relationships are changing, when you feel that I'm not living my best life, and so it could be that my relationships are starting to be affected. All of a sudden I'm having this headache, that's not going away. I've got tension in my neck. I've got upper back pain, lower back pain. I've got this pain in my chest. So when you start seeing those things, it is very important to sit and then address the issues. The other thing is that people don't necessarily deal with issues as they arise. They wait for things to pile up and then have this big blowout. So I would say once you notice that you're not as effective as you are at work, you're not as calm and relaxed in the home, those are warning signs, and then it might help you then to do something about that.
Let's stay a bit at work, because I mean we spent the majority of our time at work, and stress at the workplace is a serious issue that leads often to an array of mental illnesses. Now, what are the practical advice? What is that practical advice you can give to people in terms of managing stress at the workplace? How to deal with stress?
Okay, number one, have boundaries.
Right.
Boundaries in the sense that you might be given work that you are not able to do, and you need to then clarify the roles and how much you can do. People come late, very early, and leave very late because there are these unrealistic demands. Two, people get bullied at work. So boundaries. So have boundaries at work. Be able to deal with the issues. Three, you need. People go to work. They're just present there. They don't necessarily work. They just waste time at work. So two, be very clear to yourself what is important and how much is it that you can achieve at work. Three, one should not leave things unsaid. If there are issues, relationships with colleagues, with peers and supervisors, if there's an issue, I'll say if one can deal with them effectively. And as teams, people are very competitive in the work environment, and one of the things that we can do is to learn how to assist one another to achieve our goals, to not necessarily be so competitive, because that's one of the things that causes people to stress. And I think one of the things that one would also pick up when you go to work environments is how grievances are also sometimes not dealt with. Everybody's just trying to do their part, but grievances are not dealt with, people are not talking, and then I suppose lastly you could use the opportunities you have at work. If there's a health and wellness program, take those up, go for them. Don't think that it's just a free day. But if somebody has come at your company, in your workspace, or if somebody's providing that service, please use it. Make sure that you're physically well, you are dealing with your stress, you're dealing with your finances, and therefore you're going to have a better mental space.
Just the last few seconds that we're left with, about half a minute or so. You mentioned earlier divorce being one of those major stressors, risk factors for mental illness. Advice there, obviously, on preventing or maintaining a good marital relationship?
In a sentence, everything needs work. You have to prioritize what is important to you. So in a relationship, deal with the little issues. Don't keep quiet, because with time, it's going to be a big issue. So just deal with the things, prioritize your relationships, and deal with issues as they arise. And then you'll have a better marriage, as opposed to keeping quiet, and then exploding later on.
Right. Tabang Chaka, clinical psychologist, thank you so much for your time, man. Right, time for another quick break. When we come back, we now look at nutrition. Please stay with us.
To be part of the SABC News team means
telling independent and impartial African story.
I'm proud to be part of the SABC News team,
bringing business news to the man on the street and the executive in the boardroom.
We expose challenges faced by communities on a daily basis.
It is to take you behind the headlines, to show you the faces, and take you to the places that make this country beautiful.
And that's the power of the SABC, to go beyond the story.
I am SABC News.
I am SABC News. I am SABC News.
And I am SABC News.
The value for me has been in the lessons learned from the stories that we've told on various SABC platforms. From people from all walks of life, the commonalities in the journey of people from Kampala to Karachi, the shared struggles, common victories, from somebody from the Gold Coast to the Americas, how the fight for heritage from Southern Africa to the Balkan states can be mirrored. Hi, I'm SABC Makweki, and I am SABC News.
What constitutes a healthy diet?
In my view, veggies, meat, boiled meat rather than fried, those sort of foods, I think, I consider those healthy, and maybe fruit from time to time, yeah, and maybe just drinking water, maybe once or twice a day.
Vegetables, lots of vegetables, and to balance with the meats. Drink lots of water during the day.
It depends on you as a person. For me, for instance, I don't consume a lot of meat like that. I consume a lot of vegetables and fruits because I'm an active person. I'm into sports, so it depends on on your personality. How can I put it? At the end of the day, you have to know what the food we eat contains for you to understand what's a healthy diet. So I think people should start there, start learning what each vegetable contains and what vitamins they provide to your body, and then from there, everyone can set up their own healthy diet according to what they love and what they'd like to have on the menu.
Fruits and vegetables, even though it's cliche, but fruits and vegetables actually, they do the job. They'll keep you healthy. If you also work out, it's also going to help you. So fruits, vegetables, enough carbohydrates, not too much of a good thing is good, So yeah, fruits, vegetables, enough water, less drugs. Don't do drugs. Yeah, and that's it.
Drinking a whole lot of water. Eating veggies as well, eating fruits, and then starch, yes, but not too much, So that would be it for me. Yeah, that would be it for me.
Yeah, seems like vegetables are good for you, isn't that so? Well, here to tell us about the nutrition side of things is dietitian Tammy Hua. Welcome to Health Talk, Tammy.
Thank you for having me.
Well, before we start talking about what's good for us, why should we even worry about, nutrition? Because are there those conditions that are associated with bad nutrition, for instance?
So if you don't have good nutrition, it's most likely going to lead to overweight and obesity. And obesity will lead to more health problems like your heart disease, diabetes, high blood pressure, and high cholesterol.
Okay, so nutrition is important.
Yes.
Okay, so what then constitutes healthy eating? Perhaps let's start from, this is that time of the year. People have had a massively good time,
Yes.
They probably would have eaten a bit more than they should have, and enjoyed all the good stuff, and one of the resolutions is I want to lose weight. Now, how can you help them?
To lose weight, it's important to watch what you eat, but as well as how much you eat.
Right.
Okay, so regarding what to eat, it's important to go for low GI food, like low GI bread, brown rice.
Just explain before we carry on. I would imagine you're talking here about carbs.
Yes.
And you're mentioning low GI. What is this GI concept? Please explain this to us.
So GI concept is you get high GI carb and low GI carb. So high GI is the food that releases sugar faster into your bloodstream.
Yeah.
So which will increase your blood sugar a lot
that's
faster.
Bad.
Yeah, that's bad because you don't want that.
Okay.
And low GI food it gives you a stable blood sugar level.
Okay, so just give us examples on both sides. Let's start with high GI.
High GI, they will be like white bread, pasta, and
sugar in its current form.
Yes,
yeah?
Sugar, chocolates, biscuits.
Yeah.
And low GI then would be your low GI bread, brown rice, and like sweet potato, for example.
Right. So there's differences even in potatoes, sweet potato versus ordinary potatoes.
Yes. So the normal potatoes got higher GI and sweet potatoes got lower GI.
All right. Okay. All right. So we're back to this person that wants to lose weight now.
Yes.
Okay. What should this person be? Let's say it's an average adult of average age, about, let's say, whatever, 35 or 40 or something, yeah?
So it's important to, like I said just now, it's important to go for the low GI carbohydrates and control the, not too much carb, just a little enough.
Right.
So it should be around your fist size. Okay. And
so the amount of carb must not be bigger than the size of the fist. Okay.
For lunch as well as dinner.
Okay.
So a fist of carb for lunch and a fist of carb for dinner.
What about breakfast?
For breakfast, it would be less than that. Maybe like a slice of bread or half a cup of oats.
Right.
Yeah. So everyone's hand is different.
Yes.
So if you got bigger hands, then you can have bigger portions.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. So that's the carb on the plate. What about other stuff on the plate?
So then your protein, like your chicken, fish, your steak, pork, they would be the portion of your palm. If it's fish, then can be
excluding the fingers.
Excluding the finger, but if it's fish, then can include the fingers.
I see.
Okay, so everyone's hand is obviously different size.
Right.
Then vegetable will be two hands together.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of vegetables.
Right.
Okay, and the fat will be the top of your thumbs.
Just the top of the thumb?
Yes.
Wow.
Including in cooking. So if you're cooking using cooking oils, then that's included.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So I mean, this person wants to lose weight. Yes. You say just by sticking to these principles, weight will definitely come down.
Yes.
Okay.
Most likely, but you have to go for the healthy food as well. If you have like McDonald's and KFC all the time, because it's such a high calories in a small portion, then you won't necessarily lose weight if you're eating all that all the time.
Right. And what about maintaining weight? Any difference, or is it the same principle across?
It's very similar. So to maintain weight and also to reach your healthy weight, which will be BMI less than 25, to stick to your portion and go for the healthier options like the fresh vegetables, fresh fruits, low GI carb and lean meat, then those will keep you on your healthy weight.
Let's talk about the meats. In one of the clips that we played, somebody mentioned boiled meat as opposed to fried meat. So how should people be preparing these foods that were spoken about?
The best option would be either boil your meat or braai or grill it in the oven, because when you deep fry the food, it absorbs a lot of the oil. So that makes the meat higher in fat as well.
Okay. So people talk about different types of foods or eating styles, if you like. Some people would say, if you switch to a Mediterranean diet or banting, you'll lose weight a lot faster. Firstly, I'd like your thoughts on that. And secondly, perhaps, if you could just explain to us what a Mediterranean diet is.
Mediterranean diet is high in olive oil and high in seafood. So that's where people in like Italy, they will eat. And a lot of fresh vegetable as well, and moderate carb. So they don't necessarily have a lot of carb.
So what is moderate? So say somebody says, okay, I want to try this Mediterranean diet. You mentioned it's high in fish oils and,
healthy
oils and moderate carbs. What would be moderate?
If we talk about the percentage of your total energy intake, it will be around like 40%, but it's round about like the fish size.
Still the fish size?
Yeah. It works out similar to that.
Okay. And then there's banting.
Banting then is no starch at all. So then that you can still eat your fruits and the vegetables, but you go for the lower carb option. So then pumpkins and butternut, they're higher carb, then you won't eat them. And you won't have any bread and pasta, rice, then they're out of the table if you go for banting.
Yeah.
But both will help you lose weight.
Is it? So we've spoken a lot about, average adults.
Mm-hmm.
What about children?
Children, then depending on if the children is overweight or not.
Yeah.
But
well, let's say a child, you have already a child that's overweight, and obviously it's a problem. You can't ignore that. What sort of diet do you? Obviously, you can't give a child a special diet.
Yes.
It's got to be everything that the entire family eats.
Yes.
But what should be the approach there?
The most important for kids is actually to educate them and to teach them what is a healthier option and what is a non-healthy option. And a lot of the kids, they lead to overweight is mainly because of the chips and the sweets they eat between the meals, or they go for the unhealthy option like burgers and chips.
Yeah.
So the most important, because you don't want them to lose weight because they're still growing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's important to...
Unfortunately, kids will like sweets in between. Are you saying that you need to completely...
No, I think everything is about balance.
Yeah.
So you can have it now and then, but don't, if you do have sweets, have maybe 1 or 2,
yeah,
but don't have like a whole bag every single day.
Okay, well, Temi, thank you so much for your time and wise words. And yeah, time for another quick break. When we come back, we now look at physical activity. Please stay with us.
We pride ourselves on being impartial as well as independent. On the agenda, we basically break down the stories of the day.
Give the viewer the assurance that we will cover every side of the story.
Tear gas has now been also thrown at the protesters.
We are peacefully marching and the police is stopping the people, they're hitting the people, we are spraying the people with pepper spray. These people are supposed to protect us, but they are against us.
We are pushing them back by using the rubber bullets because we cannot allow them to block the roads and damage other people's property.
Quite important to bring on board all sides and hear what everybody has to say about a story, especially being the public broadcaster.
All in all, we basically take the news agenda of the day forward.
How active are South Africans?
Honestly, I get too busy and I don't really go. And yeah, maybe I walk here and I walk there, but no, gym, it's been a while, over a year since I've been.
I take walk once in a while.
I'm active, skateboard, I'm a skateboarder, so I'm always at the skate park or I'm always jogging. So for me, I usually do 360 workouts. It's either home-based workout routines, or I'm at the skate park, or I'm just taking the jog around my area. So every day, like I said, I'm an athletic person.
I'm a skater, but also I don't like running, but I would advise a person to run because it's healthy for your body. I don't like running, so I just work out and I skateboard, and also soccer, but I don't run around like that much.
For me, it's not really that important to be active, because what I do every day, I just take a morning walk, an afternoon walk, and an evening walk to stay healthy. And some people said it's working for me, understand? So I just take a walk, and yeah, that's it.
Well, how active are you, or should you be? Well, we have an expert who's coming to tell us about that, and that's Alim Milazi, who is a fitness expert and founder of an organization called Run Sharp. Welcome to Health Talk once again, Alim.
Thank you, Doctor. Happy to be here.
Yeah. Well, look, obviously, we're talking here about, helping people live a healthy lifestyle. We've, I think, gone through why we need to be doing this. We've looked at conditions that are associated with people not being able to have their health checked, bad nutrition. I suppose the other big one is physical activity. People aren't as active as they should be.
Yes, indeed. Given the challenges we have in our daily lives and the rise of obesity, it does become difficult to get, active. But at the end of the day, I think it starts on an individual level. We all have goals, whether you want that increase at work, whether you want to go on holiday, being physically active is no different.
Yeah.
So, and it's perhaps even more important because it speaks to your personal health. So the easiest way to get going really is just to keep it simple. Have a health check first, consult your doctor, stay with realistic goals, and then implement your plan.
Yeah.
And it could
before we talk about the plan, I mean, there's benefits to being regularly physically active.
For sure.
Let's just remind ourselves what those benefits are.
Well, for one, being active keeps you obviously healthy in terms of health, body and mind, your muscle sort of mass, your mood at work and at home. So there are, various benefits.
Right.
And physical activity is actually a way to sort of release stress. We've been talking about stress today on the program, and it's actually proven to be a great stress reliever to help you relax.
Okay. So here's someone who says, all right, I want to live a healthy lifestyle. I've not been very active, and it's not like that youngster that says, he's a skateboarder, and obviously he's fine in terms of physical activity. But someone who's been sedentary, not doing anything, going to work, and we've heard one who says, listen, I just don't have the time. So what's your practical advice to people like this? Firstly, in us putting time aside.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes. So the starting point is always to check first, the state of your health.
Right.
Because obviously physical activity has an impact on your body, and you want to be aware of the possible impact should you, for instance, do things over the top. So that's a starting point. Once you have an understanding of how your body is, then you can set realistic goals around, okay, perhaps I should start with a walk in the park, perhaps I should try hiking, perhaps I can go to the gym. So all those options and more are basically depend on, what your attitude is around physical activity. That's the starting point. And then start with small steps. 30 minutes is more than adequate, 3-4 times a week. So you don't need to sort of ramp up immediately and say, next week I'm running a 10K, because your body isn't ready for that.
So you can start with simple walks around the block.
Simple walks around the block, around the park, and as you get better and more comfortable and more confident, then you're able to take on perhaps a bigger challenge.
Right. And how often should you be doing that?
The minimum sort of recommended is usually a minimum of about 3 times a week. So 30 minutes, 3 times a week, or 4 times a week. Again, it's just a way to get you going. You needn't do it by yourself, by the way. You could also do it with your colleagues, those that are physically actively inclined. You could join a running group. You could start a group. So it really just depends on your personality and your style in terms of how you want to go about getting physically active.
Well, sometimes, I mean, it's interesting that you mentioned a group, because sometimes it's the motivation to keep regularly active for a very long time.
That is true. That is true. So the benefits of participating in sort of group physical activities that obviously you have other people there, you share a common interest, you support each other, you motivate each other, and it most importantly becomes a fun exercise. So that is one way that people use to get their physical activity going. But I think it's also important to remember that at the end of the day, you're doing this for yourself, not necessarily because there's a group that you can participate in. So yes, it's good to be part of a broader group that you can exercise with, but it's also important that you stay true and disciplined to the goal that you want to achieve around your physical activity.
Not necessarily competing with others.
Indeed.
Right. Okay. Well. So then there's Run Sharp. Tell us about that.
So Run Sharp is an organization that uses the sport of running to help youth in the township stay fit. And it's really a way to get kids exposed to the world of physical activity, health and nutrition. And what we do is we take kids to various educational institutions, we expose them to information about nutrition, exercising, sports psychology, and it really is a way of developing habits at an early stage for them to be regularly physically active, and then by the time they're adults, hopefully they keep that habit, which has an overall positive effect not only for themselves but in the communities that they are in, whether it's the school, whether it's a local NGO that they're part of, and so forth. So that's really the essence of what Run Sharp is all about.
So what sort of age groups are you looking at there?
So typically we work with children between the ages of 10 and 17. Obviously, because we focus particularly on running, there are sort of certain age categories that they can participate in. So kids that are typically younger than 14 would do a 5-kilometer race, for instance. Those that are between 10 and 17 would do a 10K, and then those that are older can do 21K. So that is sort of like the age group that we work with. That's a time when they're more impressionable, where they're more receptive to change and new ideas, and are more likely to keep that habit to the rest of their lives.
So they say running, I mean, is one of the cheapest sports, as it were, as opposed to joining a gym and paying expensive fees. And
that is correct. So running, for instance, you basically just need a good pair of shoes. That's all you need.
Yeah.
And you can run anywhere. I mean, I was in Cape Town just the other day. I ran around the mall, in the morning. You can run in the park. You can run in the city. So that's the good thing about walking and running.
Yeah.
Those two particular sports, I think, as they say, are the most democratic sports that you can participate in. And it's very easy for people to come in without worrying about the burden of costs and, and so forth.
Interesting that you mentioned walking. So these kids in your program, I mean, it's not just that it's only running.
No.
They start with a bit of walking and running.
Indeed, because the whole idea is to sort of start with an activity that sort of has a low barrier, access, where people don't feel, oh, this is overwhelming, I can't do this, it's too much work. So we start with the walking, and then over time you graduate not only into running, but in other sports as well. It could be cycling, it could be, the ones that really take it to heart.
Right. And I guess it makes it then easier even for older adults.
That is right.
To just keep walking.
Indeed. At the very least, you should be walking around in your neighborhood and your local park with your friends. You can even perhaps start, your own Stockfeld running group, where, for instance, you come together and say, right, we want to run races around the country. We pool some funds together, and that's a way of keeping things active. So you're doing two things with the, at the same time.
So, the fact that you're having fun doing it, it's more likely that you will keep doing it over a long period.
Absolutely. Right. That's the most important thing.
Okay. Alim Bilazi, fitness founder, a fitness expert and founder of Run Sharp. Thank you so much for your time, man.
Thanks.
Well, folks, that's how we come to the end of our program now. So we see you again next week, same time, same place. And on behalf of Health Talk, we wish you a happy and healthy 2019. Please do take care.